Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Ask, Don't Tell. As I always say, the best salespeople, entrepreneurs, business owners, whatever you are, they care about the people that they're dealing with, that they're working with, that they're selling to, and they show it. So each week on my show, I bring you the experience, the knowledge of some of the top performers out there. And today, I certainly have one of those. I am pumped to present today, or to have on my show, Amy Lessinger, who, she's someone who's been in the trenches. She's climbed every rung from the very beginning in REMAX as an agent to become the president of REMAX Corporation International. So you'll have to tell us a little bit more about that. And so I think that she's going to bring us an incredible amount of experience and just insight, not only on what she was doing there, working with hundreds and thousands of salespeople, but also what she's doing today to help salespeople, entrepreneurs, and business leaders, corporations in her new world. So, Amy, thank you for being on the show. I hope I got
Hi,
that
Oscar.
correct.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. So, Amy, why don't you start us off a little bit with, because I think that, as soon as I say president of REMAX, right? I mean, everyone knows REMAX. And I know we're going to get to some of your experience, some of the things that you're doing today, but I think it would not be of justice to our listeners if we didn't take a step back and say what a big deal that is. So can you just kind of briefly take us through just kind of a little bit of your career and how you became, the president of REMAX, and now where that's led you to today in your new ventures?
Sure, I'm happy to. Well, I started in sales, straight out of college. I started as an agent and went on to build a very successful team. And then we built a big brokerage in the Northern Nevada area. We started with two of us. Then there were three of us, and we built it to hundreds of agents, and we were selling nearly $1 billion in real estate by the time I sold the company. We built that through the Great Recession. So, I've always been in sales. I have always led salespeople. I have had a huge entrepreneurial background. I've run many, many different companies that we've owned over the years. And it's just funny, when I decided that I was going to sell the brokerage, a friend of mine from REMAX headquarters called me and said, what are you going to do now? Would you consider coming over to this side? And at first I thought, I don't think so. That sounds very corporate-y. But I have to tell you, I'm so glad that I said yes. It was a wonderful journey. It was an incredible experience. And, I started off leading the West region. Then I was promoted to over the United States, and then promoted to president of REMAX Worldwide. So It was quite a road, and it was an incredible journey. And, I feel like I have such a great grip on what entrepreneurs could teach corporate America, what corporate America could teach entrepreneurs, because there's so many variations there, and both stand to learn from one another for sure.
Awesome. All right. Before we get, because I know there's so much we want to unpackage, and we're taking it, but let's just take for a second and just realize what it is that you just said. Because, like, for example, I grew up with real estate parents. They started as agents. They started with brokers. They worked for REMAX. And like the amount of, over the dinner table, it was always like, where's the next commission coming? Where's the house? Where's the closing? How are they doing? What stopped it? What's keeping this family from moving forward? There was so much process, objections, stress. But the amount of families that get fed from the 140,000 plus agents all over the world in REMAX is a big deal for you to have been dealing with. So I have one question. Sure. to go into the sales world, and then we're going to go into your world, the current. So all my life, I've known that there's, and this goes beyond just REMAX agents. This goes to sales in general. This is where I want our listeners to listen. in every industry, there's those that are in the 5%, the 1%, the 2%, that last in real estate forever, that can make and grow and even then have their own brokerages like you did. And that's in any industry, in life
Sure.
insurance and in anything you do. What's separated with your experience in dealing with so many agents all these years, in your experience, salespeople in general, or business leaders in general, entrepreneurs, what is it that makes those, if you could pinpoint one that separates those that are ultra successful that from those that kind of just try real estate and then quit because it happens every day, or they try it for 6 months, oh, it wasn't, or in business in general? What could you give our audience that over the years you've learned separates those people?
Absolutely. That one is easy because it's a principle that I taught over and over, and it is focus. Someone who's selling $20 million a year in real estate versus somebody who might be selling, $3, $4, or $5 million in real estate. There is literally one difference, and it is what they focus on. And what they focus on is they focus on lead gen and conversion more than a producer who maybe isn't producing as much. And they focus heavily on that. They live in that zone. They hire out their weaknesses, so they also gain leverage. They take back their time by hiring someone to help them grow and expand and do the things that maybe they're not very good at. But foundationally, your top salespeople, it's lead generation, lead conversion, and they are maniacal about it.
So I love what you just said, because and that's going to be like a first teaching moment that I think and I always like to do that. What's that one teaching moment? And then we'll carry them on to the reversible step. But
Great.
the first teaching moment that I wanted to give there is, I mean, you just unpackaged something big. Like a lot of people, when they start a business or when they go into real estate or insurance or whatever they do, they are usually because they thought or they consider themselves pretty good salespeople, right?
Sure.
So they go into sales, whether you want to call yourself a salesperson, if you're in real estate, that's a whole discussion in itself. Some people don't like that name, but okay, you're in sales, whatever, or you're a broker, whatever. But the reality is that when they start out that way, there's probably a very big climb at first because all they got to do is sell. They need their first sale. But what you just said is as they grow, then it becomes a business. Right. And as a business, they start juggling too many hats. But those truly ultra successful people in real estate and in entrepreneurship really learn how to grow and build a business, which means that if you're great at sales, you're not going to be wasting your time with D-level activities. You're going to hire that out. If you are really good at lead generation, you're going to focus on that and not. And if you're not, you'll find someone that is. So I really liked what you said there, because what you're describing, Amy, isn't sales. You're describing business and the growth of business. What do you think about that?
And I think that's the biggest thing. And Oscar, you see this all the time. I think it's the biggest thing that people underestimate when they decide that they're going to take an entrepreneurial path. They decide, you know what, I'm going to be my own boss. I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to go into, selling insurance or houses or, whatever it is. Somebody's got to run your growth division. And bottom line, the business doesn't work if revenue isn't being generated continually.
Right.
And I think that's just the biggest piece that people really, really underestimate. You hear people a lot. Why did you get into real estate in particular? Well, I want to help people. It's like, look, absolutely.
Right.
Selling is serving if you're doing it the right way. You're solving people's problems. And so absolutely, there's space for that. And you should always serve before you sell. But, it's not as simple as that. How many touch points? How often are you out there? How continuous and intentional are you about actually, it's a contact sport, so to speak. So, you've got to be continuously driving prospects into your funnel so that you can find more people to serve and to help, because that's truly the name of the game in any state.
I just love what you're saying. And I just want to stay here because you're giving so much good stuff. And I know we've got so much more to do. So, but like that's such a huge teaching moment. Like point number 2 is really like, I wrote Closing Intelligence, how to get people to say yes in life and business. And really what I tried to tell you there is no matter what you are, no matter who you are, the better you get at sales, the better you get at rapport, the better you get at connecting, the more successful you're going to be. The more yeses in life, the more you're going to grow. You just said that, because there's so many people that get into that don't consider themselves salespeople, right? They consider themselves an engineer or a techie or like you said, I provide customer service, or I'm in real estate, but I'm just trying to help people. At the end of the day, basically what you said is the most successful people in that industry and in many industries are those that learn how to sell and get better at selling, get better at converting, shortening sales cycles. And we go into rapport and human skills and asking the right questions. And we go on and on. But you just summed it up, Amy, with, you know what? The better you can sell, the more successful you're going to be. Did I just put words in your mouth, or is that true?
No, but can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah.
So as a young agent, I started in real estate when I was 24. And I had some really great success early on. I was helping a lot of buyers, a lot of first-time home buyers, because I was a young face. And so my target market was pretty much people like me. So I was helping a lot of first-time home buyers, but I didn't have a lot of listings. And so I would go on these listing appointments. I started farming a neighborhood, and I went on 11 listing appointments, and nobody said yes. So I went back to the agents in my office and I said, what am I doing wrong? They're like, well, do you have a listing presentation? And take me through your process. I didn't have a process. I was just winging it. I was just sort of like, well, here's how I can help, and here's what I think it's worth, and here's how we'll market it. And, I was just sort of going through those motions, but I didn't build the story around how I could solve their problem and how I could serve them and why their interests were going to be handled over and above my own. And once I learned that, the seasoned agents took me under their wing, and I practiced, and I, made my poor, family go through mock listing appointments and all kinds of things. And I sold 50 houses in that same neighborhood.
Wow.
Over the years. And so I am here to tell your audience that if you feel like you're not so great at it, go get help.
Yes.
Nobody's really great at it at the onset. There's strategy, there's skill, there's experience that has to, that you have to gain, but don't quit. Just lean in and go get the help that you need to get the skill set that you need to drive the results that you want.
I mean, I have so many examples of that, Amy, and I love it because like a lot of the clients that when I go and do corporate training, I get hired by companies a lot of times where they don't consider themselves people. And particularly for me to help them do that shift, because think about it, if in an organization where you got to sell, like it doesn't matter if it's in an engineering related or the people in there have to get better at moving the funnel, moving the process, moving the sales cycle. And so a lot of the times, one of the superpowers that you give people is giving those that exactly what you said, did not have that training, did not have that background, consider themselves introverts, don't know how to sell. You make them a little bit better. You give them just simple skills, and the whole company can shift. And I'm sure you saw that you've seen that in your career, where the ones that they accept the fact that, hey, you know what? Yeah, call me a salesperson, are probably the ones that were most successful at REMAX.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it isn't about the title, in terms of, you're right. I don't know why the term salesperson just got a bad rap, in terms of just that word. It's kind of silly in my mind. It's like, you are a salesperson. You are a professional salesperson, but at the end of the day, that is your job. And if we really define it, you're solving people's problems.
Right. Well, I returned it. Go ahead. Sorry. I interrupted
you. Did you return it? Tell me.
I returned it to, well, I'm a closer. I get people to say yes. I get yeses in life. I mean, I don't care what you want to call it. It's the same thing. You want to call it a master manipulator, whatever you want to call it. Just no, seriously. If you don't want to call it sales, just there's different people that call it, but at the end of the day, whether you call it that or you call it mission solutions, business development,
right? Whatever you want to
customer, what is the one that I love? Customer engagement. I mean, come on, it's sales, people. It's sales. All right, let's move on. Amy, I'm so excited to hear what you're doing now. With all this experience, all this knowledge, tell us what you're doing now with the Irreversible Step.
Well, I'm back to my entrepreneurial roots, and I have built a framework to help people get from people, businesses, leaders, entrepreneurs, high achievers, get from where they are to where they want to be. And why did I do it? Well, first of all, I've seen too many people walking through life and they are just numb, they're unhappy, their tolerance for risk has, really declined maybe as they've progressed in their career, and they're miserable. And so I believe that in order for you to have a full life, that when you have a whisper that's happening and you have something that's nagging at you where you're like, it doesn't feel quite right. I'm burned out, or I'm tired, or I'm numb, or I'm just not fulfilled and I'm not feeling the purpose in my work anymore. It's time for an irreversible step. And so what is an irreversible step? If you think about it, Oscar, you've taken a few yourself. Every single breakthrough, every single transformation that you've ever gone through in your life has required you to take an irreversible step. And that is, you decided who you were going to be, what you were going to do, what you wanted. And you took a step that made it permanent so that turning back became impossible because you didn't want to. You were like, I am going to be, top of my craft. You launched your own brand, your own business. You wrote a book. All of those things are irreversible steps. And so I built a framework because I've taken many irreversible steps in the course of my career. And we can talk about some of those if you want to. But what I found is that a lot of people don't have framework to actually support this decision-making process, because these are high stakes decisions. These are big, big decisions. Do I want to change my career? Do I want to change a relationship? How do I find purpose and meaning in work that I've been doing for a very long time, but I'm kind of called over here to do something else? I've got family obligations, and how do I actually get from where I am now to where I want to go? And that's why I built the framework.
Okay, awesome. So let's unpack that a little bit. So
Sure.
if I could, I'm going to start challenging you here, right? So
Do it.
okay, so I'm going to start challenging you. So you're like, so you're are 100% a sales master, right? So if I am trying, let's say I'm struggling, let's say I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. Let's say I've been very successful, all those things that you just said. Why do I come to you? Like, how do you help me? Is it, and I guess what I'm saying is like, why, because there's a lot of different kind of programs out there, there's coaching, there's, what is it that you are going to help me with? Is it like kind of helping me with a step-by-step process to get there? Or is it more like, like one-on-one coaching? Like, what is it that why do people come to you? That's the first one.
Well, first of all, I'm a strategist. So I'm a strategist for, individuals as well as companies. And what I find is we overcomplicate things. We tend to, kind of push the peas around the plate, if you will. And so I built the framework to keep things very, very simple and to help very busy, very successful people and organizations move through and cut through all the noise and figure out what is that one step that if we take it, it's going to transform everything, and we're never going back. And we don't want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing from you, this is and again, so like I'm always asking people, what are your 4 whys? Like, why do people come to you? Like, why do they need your help? Then what's your solution? So what I'm kind of hearing from you is your solution isn't like just for the individual one-on-one. It can be, but it's also for the entire company to have a different mindset within each individual person to take those irreversible steps. Did I get that right? Can you share a little bit like what your solution kind of does there?
And it's both, high achievers and companies, because it works for either. It also works as a leadership tool as well. So I'll talk to you about some of the steps. So the first step is tell the truth. It's really interesting. High achievers are really good at numbing out. We're really good at continuing to produce. We're really good at just keeping in motion. Even when we're not feeling so great about what we're doing, we know something's off, we know something's wrong. But if we tell ourselves the truth, and I have some tools and systems that I use to help walk people through this process, because I'm a busy professional like everybody else out there, and I don't want a lot of fluff. I really want you to just cut through the noise, help me cut straight to the heart of it. Who am I? What do I really want? If you're a company, what is this company about, and what are you trying to achieve, and what's been the obstacles that have been getting in the way? And what do you know to be really, really true? So that's the first step. The second step is explore what's possible, because I think that we get into this either or thinking. I can either have a really successful C-suite position, or I could actually build the business that I want to build. Well, is that really true? What else is possible? Could you have both? What if it turned out better than you ever thought it could? And, I was working with one of my clients, and we went through this process. And through the process, he thought of some things that he never thought were possible, and ultimately ended up, building his irreversible step around something neither one of us even thought of, which is great. So you have to open up the brain and get it out of just this linear either or thinking. And that is where companies have a really hard time. It's, we've always done it this way. This has been our process. This is our system. Well, what's actually possible? If we just, said we never had that experience and we just cleaned the slate, what is actually possible? It really, really is transformative. And then the third one is, pick your path. What path are you going to go to? Are you going to go to, potentially explore opening that business that you think you want to open? Are you going to reorganize and actually change the direction of the company? What path are we going down? Doesn't mean you're committing to it. Doesn't mean that's exactly what you're going to do, but you at least have a direction. And from there, you build a bridge. So, high achievers, companies, they want a plan, right? But here's the trouble. We want the perfect plan. The transformation does not happen when you go check, 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 check. The transformation comes from going through the actual process and actually moving towards what you want. You become what you want to become by doing that. People want it to just be absolutely perfect and executed. The build the bridge is a really simple system, so that yes, a plan is important, and understanding how we're going to get from where we are to where we're going is important. But we overanalyze, we overcomplicate. And so my systems are designed to be really, really simple. And from there, we decide what is the irreversible step that will make this transformation real. Is it a public declaration of the direction you're going to go? Are you going to sign the contract? Are you going to actually go for board approval for what you actually want to do to transform the company? What is the irreversible step that makes it permanent, that makes that forward motion sustainable and actually helps you become who you want to be next?
Right. There's so much to unpackage there. So let's go. No, so there's so many elements there that I want people to understand of. There's so many elements of sales there, but there's so many elements of, coaching, corporate training, strategy. So just kind of unpackaged you a little bit. And so really kind of what I'm hearing from you is your take. It does, like, whether it's a company or individual, you've got a framework that takes them on really kind of like a 4 or 5 step process. But
that's right.
But really, there's a couple things that really stood out to me that I want to make sure that our audience gets. For you to do what you do successfully, you have to go in through a very deep discovery mode with your client. Yes. So in sales, it's no different. If you want to be able to, because you're trying to impact their corporation or them to take some sort of action, for them to say yes to that irreversible step. The only way that they can do that is for them to unpackage what's inside. But the only way that you can do that, Amy, is by some very deep discovery and really questioning themselves and what they're doing, so that they verbalize what the challenges are, what their opportunities are, and they verbalize, maybe I should take this step. So let's step back and unpackage that. Is that true, what I just kind of said, with that process that you go through?
That's right. And, I think one thing, Oscar, that I can't stress enough is I'm not here to talk anybody into or out of anything. I'm the catalyst and the person who helps them go on the journey, but it's their journey. It's definitely not mine. And so, and that's why I built the framework, because I've seen so many people just stay stuck because they don't know what to do. I've seen companies stay stuck. I've seen people stay stuck. And I'm just driven to help them get out of that and transform and get to the other side. Because the one thing that I know is every single irreversible step that I have ever taken in my life has led me on an incredible path to what's next and more and greater success than I ever thought possible.
Okay.
So
Well, in a second,
I know this one. I have done this one many times myself.
in a second, I'm going to get you to give us an irreversible step. But hold on. I love this because, like, as you're going through this process, they're probably and here's the similarity. Like, I love this because, like, okay, some people, they're great salespeople, right?
Mhm.
Or they're great people or whatever their business in, and they think that their job is the talk, that
Right.
to tell people what to do and to this is what you got to do. And you're impacting something so huge because even if it's just in a sales interaction, you should be doing 90% of the listening and they should be doing 90% of the talking. No, you should be doing 10% of the talking, right? Which is what you're doing, which is why
Yeah.
you are so successful at what you're doing, because ultimately, I teach you that sales is about ask, don't tell. It's about
You bet.
discovery. It's about digging deep. And then you give them the path that they unveiled for themselves. So you're doing that
That's
in
right.
a structured process that gets them to make a decision. So let's talk about that decision. That irreversible step is actually at some point an action step. Like they've said, okay, I could have done this, I could have done this, I could go here, but this is the reversible step. But I have to take an action, which means I have to say yes to that action and do it.
That's right.
Tell me about one irreversible step that you took.
Sure.
And then I'm going to lead us into how you help others take those irreversible steps. So tell us a
Sure.
little bit about one irreversible step that you took.
I think, I've taken many over the
Mhm.
course of my career and of my life. And I would say that, one that taught me the most was when I decided to sell the near $1 billion brokerage that we had built. It was sort of my baby, but I have to tell you, I was pretty burned out. I was numb. I was, going through the motions because I had a successful and profitable business, but I just didn't feel as connected to my purpose as I did when I built it. And so honestly, Oscar, I held on to it for, a number of years too many. And here's the reason I did. I didn't know who I was without it.
Mhm.
And, we had all the accolades, all the awards, all of the things. And, we tend to, create that within our identity. I am what I do, which, I have since learned that is absolutely not true. We are not what we do. We are here to impact the world and live on purpose, and build a life by design, not default. So I held on to the brokerage probably 3 years too long. I loved the people. I loved, working with them and helping them build their business and, create incredible profitability, no matter the market that they were in. But something was nagging at me. I was like, I want more. I want to do more. So I signed the contract to sell the company and I had no idea what I was going to do next. And so that's a big thing that's an irreversible step. I sold the company. I can't take that one back. And that is when the door opened for me to go to REMAX headquarters. And that's something that I really stress to people all the time is the perfect plan and the timing and all the things. When you have that nagging whisper, that is yourself talking to you, saying, there's more out there. There is, you want more. And being brave enough to go get it was, scary, but also exhilarating. And it took me on an incredible journey and an incredible path where I just learned so much. And I actually became the next version of myself that actually has what it takes to do what I do for people today.
Right. So that is such a powerful story because what some people don't realize when you say that is that, that irreversible step that you take, sometimes you don't know what's going to happen next. And I've done, and I'm
Right.
not going to get into it, but I've had at least
You've
4
done
or
it too.
5.
I know you have.
Yeah. But so that irreversible step sometimes, and I'm going to take us a little bit more on how you help people do that. But that irreversible step, we will fill our mind with reasons, excuses, and objections, stalls
Yes.
of why we can't take that step. And it's no different when you're trying to sell something or you're trying to get people to do yes, like they will give themselves 1,000 reasons not to take that step. But here's one of the things I always say is like, your job, Amy, my job, anybody's job in the sales world or in that, just taking that step, is you kind of have to put those aside, take the step, and realize that the opportunities don't open until you start moving forward. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. None of us do, but the opportunities open in parallel as you move forward. And I think that's kind of what you're saying. You didn't know what you were going to do. And a lot of people are listening to me right now saying, gosh, I'm there. I'm right exactly there. And I'm not doing this because I don't know what's going to happen. So listen to me. You don't know. And no one's going to tell you you don't have a magic ball. The only way you're going to know is by taking that step. It's in a way when you're standing still, and you said it, you're standing still. You're not moving forward. You're not moving back. You're just standing still. So you have two options: move back and be miserable, or move forward and then watch the opportunities unfold themselves. And one other thing that I wanted to point out is, it's interesting because I have a lot of friends between 45 and 49 that are going through that right now. Like I'm sure you see this all the time. They've had this career, they've had this job, they've had this path, and all of a sudden that door closes. And now they're going to take an irreversible step. It'd be interesting to know how many 45 to 54-year-olds you have in that irreversible step.
There's many. There's many. And it's another reason, again, I'm just so passionate and driven to help people go through this. And, this isn't about wrecking your life. Believe me, when I signed the contract, I knew, okay, I've got the savings that I've got. Here's kind of the direction I think I want to go, but nothing was concrete. I didn't have what was next. So, that's part of the build your bridge is, people won't move without kind of the safety net. And so there's frameworks within each step where, we do a resource audit and we kind of look at, okay, what are you going to need if you want to take this step? But we don't get into paralysis of the analysis because that's where you'll talk yourself out of it. So to the point you just made, at some point, you're being called forward to take your next step in life. And I have to tell you, I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of people and thousands over the course of my career. Every single transformation, every single breakthrough is always rooted in an irreversible step. Always. Wow. If you just break it down, it's an amazing thing.
I love the word. I love the name that you came up for, the irreversible step. I love it because you're right. It is, now that I think about it, it is irreversible. You can go back, but you can go back and play with it, but it is irreversible. Okay. Yeah, all right. It is. So I want to make sure we have time for our next segment because I really want to know what you have to say about this. Okay. So this is the hardest part. You've done the whole process and you're going to get those obstacles. You're going to get the stalls. You're going to get the objections. You're going to get the reasons, the what if, I don't know, the magic ball. You're going to get that. Now, if you're listening to this, Amy's going to tell us how she helps her clients overcome that. But if you're a corporate person, this is going to help you. If you're in business, but if you're in sales, also think about that. You get this every single day. You get excuses and reasons of why someone doesn't want to move forward. So that's what I'm trying to kind of bridge together. I don't want you to go that route, Amy. I want you to tell us, but I think that they can get from that something. How do you help people? Do you have like a little way that you just like convince them? Do you kind of help them get past their excuses? Do you kind of have a little foundation, a framework? How do you get people past those excuses from, no, Amy, I'm not ready to do that, to, hey, I'm going to take this irreversible step?
I have lots of different tools, but foundationally what you're talking about, Oscar, is fear. Fear is the monster that is there on our little shoulder talking to us all the time. And it's designed to keep us safe. So I have tools that I use to get them out of their amygdala that controls our flight, freeze response, and get them into their prefrontal cortex, which is the possibility. And so one of the things that we do is we don't silence the fear. We let it speak. We look at all of it. We trot all of it out into the middle of the room and we take a look at it. And then we say, all right, what is this trying to teach me? What is it trying to keep me safe from? Okay, now how am I going to reframe it? And what do I know to be true about that? So for example, what if I fail, right? That's just a big one. What if I fail? Okay, well, what is fear trying to teach us there? Well, it's trying to keep us safe because we know that if we fail, that it might have certain consequences, etc. But now, if we reframe it, it's like, well, wait a minute, but I've done hard things before and I've succeeded. So is that really true? No, it's not true. So I am going to now talk to somebody who's done this before and see what they did. So do you see how you shift it?
Yeah.
You just basically shift it all around. And so for a salesperson, if you've done your due diligence and you have done a lot more listening than talking, you know what their fears are that are masked in objections. And so now if you just trot it in the middle of the room and you say, you know what, I know you're concerned about this, but your overall goal was, to sell your home by August so the kids could be in school. So if we delay by saying that we want to go back in price and we know the buyer won't pay that price, well, how are you going to feel if the kids aren't in school on time, right? You're just framing, you're not trying to talk them into or out of it. It's like, you can either do it or not do it. It's okay. But I just want to keep you centered on what you said you wanted and what was important and why.
Right.
And then let's not let fear lead all the time because it just runs away with you.
I love it because, I mean, you're talking about, and this is the term that I use, this is the term that I put in the book, but you're really talking about the same thing. I just love the way you're just kind of packing it differently in a way that is okay. So the way that I call it is, isolate your excuses, your objections, your stalls. Like, okay, besides the fear, besides every excuse that you have in your brain of why you can't do this today or why you're not willing to move forward or fill in the blank. Is there any other reason deep down inside that would keep you from doing this? And what you said, Amy, is you did the same thing. You say, look, let's put all those things aside. Let's talk about why you want to do this. Let's talk about, what else would be keeping you. Realize that most of the time, and I'm sure you get this all the time, Amy, you said it is like when you kind of help, you're not telling them what to do. When you kind of put it aside and then they verbalize, many times they'll say, you know what, Amy, you're right. That is just me giving you an excuse. Or they will say something like, so listen up if you're listening. Besides the fact that is there any other reason why a lot of times what you'll get is, you know what? The real reason I'm not moving forward is this. And then something else will come out, right? And then you'll be like, okay, well, let's address that. But reality is, you said it beautifully. It isn't about talking. It isn't about trying to convince someone. You do it beautifully. You help them make their own decisions by listening. And it all goes back to ask, don't tell.
Yes.
Like you got to listen. So you're a pro. I mean, if you're listening to this and you heard that, we're both saying the same thing, but I know that I'm talking to a pro because she's able to do that where she helps people take that irreversible step by helping them put those things aside and say, look, let's just do this. So give me an example. I mean, and we just have to end here in a few minutes, but I just love what you're saying. If there was a quick irreversible step that somebody could take today, so we did like, why people would come to you for help. What is it the solution you provide? Who is Amy? Why Amy? I mean, Amy clearly knows what she's talking about. Why today? What is an irreversible steps that somebody could take today that would put them in contact with you? They would get that motion going. They would at least get them moving in the direction that you would want them to do. So give me an easy irreversible step that they could take today.
Easy irreversible step is if you are stuck, reach out, take a step forward toward what you want. And so many people are stuck, as I've said, and that's why I built the framework, is to help them get unstuck. We're launching a 6-week intensive, which will meet once a week. There's, a full workbook. I'll take them through the series, all at once. And I wanted it to be intensive, but not overwhelming. And so this will get them to the irreversible step. I have lots of free tools on my website. It's amylessinger.com. And, foundationally move toward what you want, not away from it. And
Right.
So it starts by telling yourself the truth. What do you really want? What's missing? What are you no longer willing to tolerate? That's another one. What are you no longer willing to tolerate? And right there, that's a piece of your truth and a piece of the direction that you already know. You already know it, and you're just fighting it.
Right. Well, that irreversible step is taking some sort of action. Like at the end of the day, it isn't just staying where you are. It's okay. Well, reach out to Amy, go to her website, sign up for the
Reach out
intensive,
to Oscar.
whatever. Reach out to me.
You're a master too.
Doesn't matter. Do something.
Yeah.
Get help, because at the
That's
end
right.
of the day, I mean, the only reason Amy can do what she can do is because of years of experience. Don't try to reinvent the wheel by yourself. Yourself only knows what you know. Yep. And will only do the same things between what you know. So if you sometimes seek help, then you can that help can help you take those steps that are going to make a difference in your life. Amy, you have been awesome.
Thank you.
So again, where can they just so where how do they find you? Where can they point to you just in case they missed it?
I'm on all the social platforms under Amy Lessinger, and they can find me at amylessinger.com or theirreversiblestep.com.
Amy, thank you so much for being on the show. I hope all of you got something great from Amy today. For you listeners, I will see you next time in Ask, Don't Tell. You can always connect with me at OscarSubrats.com. You can pick up a copy on bookclosingintelligence.com, and I will see you next time on Ask, Don't Tell. Amy, stay on so we can have a little chat. Bye-bye.